I cannot think of a better way to celebrate the 5-year anniversary of Count It Out with Mike and Tyler than being joined by our guest today. He is considered by many to be one of the greatest professional wrestlers of all time, myself included, I consider that. He is a 13-time world champion, WWE and TNA Hall of Famer. He won an Olympic gold medal with a broken freaking neck, and he's here to bring some intensity, integrity, and intelligence to Count It Out. It is our honor to welcome to the show the one and only Mr. Kurt Angle. Mr. Angle, thank you so much for being here today.
Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
I wanted to run down more of your accolades, but we only have 30 minutes with you, and I don't think I would have had time to get them all in there. So I went with the greatest hits there.
That was good enough.
We were just excited to have the WWE Elimination Chamber here in Toronto a couple days ago as we record this. The big news coming out of that show, one of your greatest rivals was John Cena, and we saw him joining forces and teaming up with The Rock. I would love to get your opinion on seeing that happen and what your thoughts are on that angle.
I think it's a great angle. Bringing Cena back. He's going to have his retirement match, and obviously it's not going to be at WrestleMania, which is kind of ironic. But I think that John Cena is making this his own. So I think him retiring. I believe they're going to have a pay-per-view in December at the end of the year, and I think it's going to be called Ruthless Aggression. So it all makes sense now, and him starting out as a heel, coming back, I think is brilliant. I believe he's going to eventually turn babyface before he has his retirement match. So it should be interesting to watch.
Absolutely.
Kurt,
I
John is arguably one of your greatest opponents. The stories that you and John told in that ring are that of legend. To the point where originally you wanted him to be your last match. You've been quite vocal about. What do you think of the retirement tour, and what makes it so special that he gets to do this? Not everybody gets a retirement tour like this. What is so special about John Cena?
John, doing what he's done in the sports entertainment world, winning 16 world heavyweight WWE titles, no one's ever done that before. John is very special. I consider him the greatest WWE superstar of all time, strictly because he won WWE 16 world WWE titles. Ric Flair has won 16 as well, but they've all been, NWA, WCW, WWE. But John Cena winning 16 world heavyweight titles from the WWE, no one's ever done it. And he's made a huge impact on the wrestling community. And I have a lot of respect for John for what he's been able to accomplish.
Speaking of his night at the Elimination Chamber, I was privileged enough to be there, quite close to the ring and having a great time. And one of the most special parts of that night for me was I brought my 6-year-old son to his very first WWE show that night at the Sky Dome. Very, very mirrored to your own. We saw at the Royal Rumble, you had your daughter with you there.
Yes.
How special is it with you to be able to share this world with your kids?
It's really cool. My kids barely got to see me perform in WWE or TNA. For them to see me in this limelight, it's kind of cool. My 8-year-old daughter, she never saw me perform before. So to be able to bring her to an event and show her what daddy did, it's pretty cool.
did they like freak out when you showed them some old footage of like how impressive the stuff that you did was, and then like did they get a kick out of being like, Dad, like that's you?
You know what? We've kind of instilled in them, you know, we're a lot of work ethic coming from sports. All my kids play sports, but none of them have ever seen me in WWE. So it is cool. It does blow their minds a little bit, but they do have a link to sports, so it's not like surprising, like, oh wow, Dad, you did this. It's, oh Dad, that's pretty cool that you did that. I mean, it's, my kids, they know what I've done, and we make them well aware of what I've been able to accomplish. And you know what? I don't know if someday they might want to do it, but none of them have actually asked me if they "Hey, Dad, I really want to do this." So I don't know if that's going to be something I'm going to have to face down the road, but if I do, I'm going to have to give it a long, hard thought.
Absolutely. It's going to
Yeah,
be more stressful for you watching
yeah.
them than you getting in there for sure. You said a great comment there. You said that you've done that they're well aware of the amazing things that you've done in your career, and you've done so many fun things in your career. You've done so many amazing things in your career, and I'd love to talk to you a little bit about a fun thing that you did right here in Toronto. On an edition of Monday Night Raw, you had such great chemistry with Stone Cold Steve Austin, and I was at the Monday Night Raw when you kidnapped him and you took him to the bridge,
Yeah.
and you're the famously "Cry for me, Austin. Are you gonna cry for me?" What do you remember about working with that angle and just working with Steve in general?
Steve was one of the most entertaining guys I've ever worked with. What's amazing about him is everything he does is improv. He, he's not one of those guys that wants to study a script and go script by script. He wants to do whatever he wants to do, and that was the first time I had to do improv, and I was really nervous because I didn't know what was going to come out of his mouth, and I didn't know what was going to come out of my mouth. So what Vince McMahon did is we both got injured at one point in time at a pay per view, and Vince thought, well, I don't want my two top guys to be sitting at home. I'd rather do some work with them, have them on the shows. So they kind of put me and Austin together and Vince, and we started doing these vignettes, and they were really funny. And I would tell you, man, Vince McMahon and Stone Cold Steve Austin, we all got together, and Vince would say, "Hey, this is what we're gonna do. This is the idea. I want Steve to start, then I'll chime in, then Kurt, you chime in, and whenever it's done, I don't want anybody to laugh because if you laugh, you're gonna get fined $2,000." So um, so for a few different pre-tapes, we kept breaking character and laughing, and that's when Vince said, "Okay, from here on in, I'm going to fine you guys $2,000, so no more laughing." So we were able to keep a straight face to finish the vignettes, but it was a struggle. I actually owed Vince $8,000 because I laughed four times in one day. So that's something that I had to do. I had to go through it, but Stone Cold never broke character. He never did. I do believe Undertaker had a difficult time breaking character when we did a pre-tape with him. I believe it was him and Jericho and me and Austin and Vince
Yeah.
and I believe Kane. And yeah, that was a tough one too.
Speaking of laughing, that'll bring me right into this. There's a lot of great comedic wrestlers in WWE. We're lucky enough to live through watching R-Truth every week, who makes us laugh.
Yeah,
Santino Marella comes up as one of the greatest.
very
But
entertaining.
but you, Kurt Angle, you are unmatched when it comes to being able to be funny, really, really funny, without losing your serious edge. Most people can't do that. Most people, this is absolutely nothing to discredit Kurt, R-Truth, but he's not going to be main eventing WrestleMania next year. We know
Right.
this.
Right.
The same thing with Santino and all these other comedic wrestlers. But no matter all the funny things you did, you never lost your spot. You were always still one of the top guys. What was so special about being able to do things like the mini cowboy hat
Um,
or sexy Kurt or telling Rey Mysterio that you like little boys? You were able to get away with that stuff
yeah.
and still be taken seriously. How did you get away
I
with
I
that?
think it's because Vince McMahon came to me and said, "Listen, we're going to do some funny vignettes. We're going to make you make an ass out of yourself on many occasions." But he said, "Listen, you can do this because you want to go medal in the Olympics. Nobody's going to second guess that when you get in that ring, that you're not going to kick somebody's ass.
Right.
It doesn't matter how funny or how goofy you become. They're always going to take you seriously in the ring." So I had that advantage in my corner, and I knew that. So I knew I could let myself go and be as funny or goofy as I can be. And it worked extremely well.
I
And
did.
for the most part, fans took me very seriously in the ring. But I will tell you this: at one point in time, Vince said, "All right, enough's enough. You're getting too funny, too goofy. We're gonna we're gonna have to take you seriously. We're gonna make you the wrestling machine." And that's when the wrestling machine Kurt Angle was born.
Mhm.
So there wasn't there weren't as many funny moments after that.
Right.
I think the
Do you
fact
have
that like,
any? Oh,
oh, sorry, go ahead, Mike. Go ahead.
I just want to know, just to tail that up, do you have any favorite comedic bits that you did?
Uh, all the stuff with Austin was great.
Yeah.
I enjoyed doing the battle rap with John Cena. Sexy Kurt with Shawn
Yes.
Michaels.
That's my
I
personal favorite.
really enjoyed the promo with Rey Mysterio. That was a funny bit that Brian Gewartz, my writer, my WWE writer, wrote that for
Mhm.
me. And when I saw what he wrote down, I was like, "Oh my god, this is great!" So I was able to go up there and perform it, but I didn't make it up. That's the
Right.
only thing I could say is I had great, really great writers in WWE coming up with the stuff for me to perform.
Yeah.
Did I knock it out of the park? Yes, but the hard part was the creativity and writing it, and that's what Brian did for me. God bless him.
And I think the fact that you leaned into it so much too, like something so
Hmm.
simple like that Edge promo with the "You suck" chant, like that could have just been
Yeah.
a one night thing and moved on. And I think your reactions to that made it one of the most defining things in your entire career, you know?
Yeah, Vince McMahon told me, "Hey, tell them you don't like it, and they'll keep doing it." And eventually, when I turned babyface, Vince said, "Listen, they're not doing it because they hate you. It's not definitely not because you suck. It's because you go out there and you perform for the fans, and you have your song that has this da da."
Mhm.
And when Ed said, "Don't say Angle, say you suck," to the fans started chanting "You suck," and it just stuck with me. It didn't matter if I was baby or heel. The fans always said it, and I took it as a compliment at one point in time. I had to. I didn't know what else to
Yeah.
do with it, so it was kind of weird. But I took to it.
When you look back at some of these moments, something like the milk truck segment, did you ever think like in that time period that it would have such a lasting impression on the audience today?
No, no, that was the greatest moment of my career was when I drove the milk truck into this arena and sprayed down Stone Cold Steve Austin and the alliance with Milk. That was another brilliant idea by Brian Gewirtz. I believe Stone Cold Steve Austin drove a beer truck into the arena a few
Yes.
years earlier, so they based that off of that. And since Stone Cold was in the ring, they had me drive a milk truck in the arena, and that was really cool. The fans' reaction that night was incredible. Everybody went freaking ballistic, and everybody got it too. They knew that Angle's driving a milk truck. Austin, drove the bear truck a while ago, but Angle was coming in with the milk truck. It was a great moment for me. Something I truly will never forget.
Absolutely. Mike, you want to go with the next one here?
Let's shift gears because I truly believe that some of your best work that you've ever done in your career was in TNA. Both Tyler and I are big fans of TNA, and we're big fans of what you did there. You turned that company around. They were getting to a point where I wasn't sure if I was going to continue watching, and then when Kurt Angle pops up, well, you don't have a choice. You kind of have to watch
Thank
every
you.
week. Uh, I'd love to get your thoughts on the new partnership with TNA and WWE, and if you would ever consider working on either side if they brought you in some sort of level.
I don't know. I'd have to think about it. It really comes down to how much work they want me to do and how much they want to pay me. That really comes into effect when I think about if I want to do anything with the company, whether it be WWE or TNA. But I love the fact that they partner with TNA, and I hope that someday maybe WWE might be able to buy the library of TNA because
Yes.
there are a lot of matches that fans haven't seen that I did in TNA. A lot of WWE fans haven't seen that I would love to be able to see them. I spent more time in TNA than I did WWE. I spent 11 years in TNA. I spent 6.5 years in WWE my first time, and my second time I spent 2 years. So 11 years in TNA, 8.5 in WWE. So I had, and I was really primed. I was in my prime of my career when I went to TNA. See, when you wrestle 6 or 7 years, that's when you get into your prime.
Mm.
And that's when I decided to leave WWE and go to TNA. And I had some of the greatest matches of my career there. AJ Styles, Samoa
Oh,
Joe, Sting, Jeff
yes.
Jarrett, a lot of great talent that I wrestled. So I don't regret doing that. I had to leave the WWE at that point in time because I was having a lot of injuries and I was having a painkiller problem and I needed to get myself straight. So I went to TNA and it was a great move for me. And we had a really good run back then. I'd say a really good 5 year run.
Yeah.
And I was really proud to be a part of it.
Well, you just brought up a name, Samoa Joe.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Joe for a minute because that headbutt moment is iconic. That is ingrained into the memories of any TNA fan. Can you bring us back to that debut of yours?
Yeah, that headbutt was a shoot.
What?
Poor Joe. Yeah. I mean, you know what? I told Joe I'm going to headbutt you. He said, go ahead. And I was like, okay, I'm going to lay in though. He said, don't worry about it. I could handle it. And he did. I mean, I headbutted him and I cracked him open. He had I think he had to get 14 stitches in his forehead.
Whoa.
And it was a great moment. And seeing that reaction from Joe with blood running down his face and him pissed off behind me, it was such a great moment. I really think that TNA turned the corner that night,
I
and
agree.
they became more of a formidable company because of that. And just that moment in general really did something for the company.
When you think about your time in TNA, Kurt, and even your entire career, we always hear names like the Chris Benoit's and the Steve Austins, the Rocks, the Samoa Joes. But specifically with your time in TNA, do you have some opponents that you really liked working with that maybe don't get talked about as much?
Well, you know what? I'm just glad that it's Joe and AJ eventually came to WWE because they deserve that.
Hmm.
Um, I have some of my best matches with them, but I will tell you, I had some great matches with Bobby Roode and James Storm. Those guys were incredible talents. I also wrestled the Motor City Machine Guns quite a few times. Jay Lethal was a great talent. I really enjoyed working with him. There were a lot of great talent there. A lot of guys that aren't well known, like Petey Williams and other great talent. I was really excited to go to TNA because there were so many guys I never faced before, and like the options were limitless, and it was like, wow, this is great. I can work with new talent now, and I was able to do that, and I was very fortunate because of that.
A little bit earlier, we were talking about if you'd ever have any interest in working with TNA or WWE again, and you said it depends on the dates and the money and whatnot. If all the stars aligned up and they could come to an agreement that you were happy with and they were happy with, when you take a look at that current WWE roster, do you see some talent that you think that you would really enjoy working with and that you could help, elevate?
Well, I think it's pretty, like, I guess the word is, it's pretty evident who they would probably have me manage, and that's
Yeah.
Chad Gable
Mm.
and the Creed brothers. They haven't approached me yet. I don't know if I think they will eventually, but I'm not quite sure. But if they do, like I said before, it would have to be, about how much work they want me to do and how much money they want to pay me. That's the two most important things because I'm not going to leave my family, for something that's not worth it for me.
Of course not.
I have a job here as a father and husband, and I've really clung to my kids and my wife for the past 5 years since I've been retired, and I really love where I am in my life right now. So to be able to start going back to wrestling again, well, not wrestling, but managing, it would have to be a formidable amount of money for me to do it.
Absolutely. And you've earned that right to sit there and enjoy this time with your family. You've given so much to the wrestling business and to us fans.
Thank
And
you.
and I know that everybody always jumps right to Chad Gable, but just to think outside the box a little bit, I really think that you and Braun Breaker as a team would
Oh,
be
I love that kid.
right.
Oh, I
I
love
see a
him.
lot of that
Yeah.
intensity in him. I think that you
Yeah.
could really help put him over the moon as well.
His intensity level is way up there. I put it up there
Ridiculous.
with me and Chris Benoit. He is an incredible athlete, great look, a lot of charisma. Kid has so much ability. I I will tell you this. The Steiners made a huge impact when they wrestled. They were badasses. But Brian Breaker, I think he might be even more of a badass than his uncle and his father. I'm sorry to say that, but Scotty Steiner's a badass. So is his brother. But this kid is wow. He's off the charts.
I don't think you're wrong. You just mentioned, and we're so happy to hear it, but you just mentioned how happy you are in your life right now, and life after wrestling obviously agrees with you. But speaking of life after wrestling, right here on Count It Out, just a few weeks ago, TNA legend Homicide was a guest here,
Mhm.
and he chose our show to announce his impending retirement at the end of the month,
Okay.
due to neurological issues. When reflecting on his career, he was talking about some of his favorite moments and favorite people, and your name came up as somebody that he loved working with in TNA. Do you have any memories of working with Homicide, and do you have any maybe advice for life after wrestling for Homicide?
Well, Homicide was a great talent. I loved him and Hernandez. Those guys had a great tag team run. Homicide was also a great singles wrestler.
Mm-hmm.
I enjoyed working with him too. He was a stud. But advice for him for retirement: kick back and enjoy it. When I first retired, I was depressed. I wanted to wrestle. I was so used to going out every week and traveling the world, and then I go home and it's like a shock to your body, to your system. You're like sitting home and you're doing absolutely nothing, but you are doing something. You're being a father and a husband, but it was really difficult for me. And I just want to tell Homicide, don't worry about you know if you feel like you need to be working, just try to take that out of your mind and just think about what you want in your life. Do you want to have a good marriage? Do you want to have kids, or do you want to raise your kids the proper way? I mean, those are the important things in life, and so is your career. But when it comes down to it, if you have to pick over your career or your family, I would hope you would pick your family, and that's what I'm telling Homicide. Pick your family. Don't worry about the wrestling anymore. Have a good time with your family and take care of them. And I promise you will be happy and you will stay happy.
Now, that's
That's
fantastic
great advice.
advice. And Kurt, you just mentioned how you kind of had a hard time after your retirement.
Yeah, for a
And
couple years it was depressing.
you said it, and I think I agree with you. And you're enjoying your time with your family. That the door is now closed for you as an in-ring performer. But was there ever a time where we were close to seeing you have another match after that WrestleMania match? Had you ever considered like having one more with that emotions that you were feeling? Were we close to seeing you in the ring?
No, no, and I'll tell you why. Um, when I came back to the WWE, I was in really good shape. I was in wrestling shape. I was ready to go. And they kind of swerved me. They said, "Hey, we're going to induct you in the Hall of Fame." I said, "Well, I'm not retiring." They said, "That's all right. We'll induct you first, and then you can wrestle eventually." So they induct me in the Hall of Fame, and that night, Vince McMahon comes up to me and says, "Hey, we want you to be GM of Raw." I was like, "But I want to wrestle. I'm not retired yet." He said, "Don't worry, we'll get to that." So I become the GM of Raw, and I'm working, and I'm no longer being active in the ring. All I'm doing is being the GM because I'm so freaking busy. I have no time to train in the ring. So um, about 7 or 8 months goes by, and they want me to start wrestling again, and I'm completely out of shape. My knees have arthritis, my shoulders, my neck, my back, everything, because I stopped being active for 8 months. My
Mm.
body shut down.
Oh,
So when I started wrestling, it looked like I lost a step. It looked like I wasn't the same Kurt Angle. So as I'm doing this every week, I'm wrestling and I'm watching tapes of it, and I was like, "Oh my God, I hate the way I look. I look like an old man." So that's when I decided I wanted to retire. And I told Vince McMahon, "So Vince, I want to retire." I said at WrestleMania, and I want John Cena. He said, you can't have John Cena. You have a program with Baron Corbin. You have to finish it. So I said, okay, I understand that. He said, if you want Cena, you can wait the following year. And I didn't want to wait another year
Right.
because of the way I was wrestling. I felt like I looked like an old man, and I don't want fans to remember me as that washed up old man. I want them to remember me as Kurt Angle in his prime. So I felt like I couldn't do it anymore. It's out of my hands. And I decided I would never step in the ring again. And I'm sticking to that to this day.
And
Absolutely.
while
Yeah.
and while we understand that
Yeah.
100%, as Canadians, I'll tell you, we never let go hoping that we'd see you and Josh Alexander do something together at some
Oh
point.
gosh, Josh is a
That
stud.
that that was the number one dream match for us. At least, at the very least, as a consolation prize, we got him and you together on your podcast, which is one of my favorite podcast episodes of any wrestling podcast. You and Josh together just were
Very
so
cool.
were so good. It was such a great interview.
Yeah. Good kid. Love him.
Yeah, he's hitting the free agent market now too, right? He's probably the hottest free agent in wrestling.
Yeah, he didn't
So,
get picked
I'm
up
right. He
quickly.
is.
It doesn't,
Yeah.
it's not gonna last long.
well, Kurt, we're coming to an end of our time here with you. So I just have a couple more questions I'd love to ask you. I mean, I could sit here and do this forever with you. I feel like we just got started, but we'll have to maybe try a part two down the road. Um,
Okay.
I'd love to know who is on your Mount Rushmore of your favorite opponents that you've been in the ring with.
Okay. The thing is, if I you're talking about a Mount Rushmore of the greatest wrestlers of all time, or
No,
my
for
Mount
your
Rushmore of who
personal,
I
your
wrestled.
Your
personal,
per
your personal
you
favorite guys that
Yeah.
you wrestled, like that you just enjoyed getting in the ring with and ripping it down the house.
All right, we're gonna go with Chris Benoit, Shawn Michaels, Eddie
Mhm.
Guerrero, and Brock Lesnar.
What
Um,
a list.
Who could
those
argue
four
that?
guys, I had my best matches with all of them. Um, Brock, yeah, Eddie, geez, Sean and Chris, yeah, those four guys are they're all studs, and they can all go in the ring. Uh,
Hmm.
they all have a certain ability about them that makes them special. When you watch Shawn Michaels wrestle, he is so smooth and clean, and he's an incredible athlete. And not only that, he has so much charisma. He has a great look, and he gets the crowd into the matches. And I could honestly say that he is the greatest sports entertainer of all time.
I'm with you.
Shawn Michaels.
Yep.
Chris
Could argue.
Benoit is the best in-ring worker I've ever been in the ring with.
Sure.
Eddie Guerrero is just like Sean. Um, he he was. If it wasn't for, I will tell you this, he broke his hip back in WCW. I wish I would have wrestled Eddie in his prime. Listen, Eddie was better than everybody else, even after he had his broken hip.
Hmm.
But he still wasn't the Eddie Guerrero that he used to be. Because Eddie Guerrero in WCW was the greatest wrestler of all time, period. And when he came to WWE, he broke his hip, and because of that, it kind of hobbled him a little bit. So he had to work around it. But he still was better than everybody else.
You're right.
That's how good Eddie Guerrero was. Brock
Mhm.
Lesnar, the biggest freak I've ever seen in my life. To be 320 pounds and have that quickness and agility, unbelievable. I will tell you this though, I got to put Undertaker up there too. All right, you got to
Mhm.
give me five
Yeah,
because
that's
Taker is
fair.
the best big man I've ever wrestled in my life. I had a match with him at No Way Out in 2006. We wanted to be WrestleMania, but Vince said no, you can have the pay per view before. And man, that match was off the chart. Could be one of the greatest matches of all time.
It's
Um,
phenomenal. I
I believe
really
my matches with Benoit, Eddie, Undertaker, Shawn Michaels, um, and Brock Lesnar. I think I didn't mention yet, but I believe some of those matches are the greatest matches of all time. Period.
I agree 100%. I think if you take that No Way Out match with The Undertaker and put it on WrestleMania, we talk about it as one of the greatest WrestleMania matches of all time. Hands down, that match is phenomenal.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it.
So the last question I like to ask everybody, Kurt, before I turn it over to Mike to take us home here. When you look back at your career and everything that you've accomplished inside the ring, outside the ring, it could be a personal moment for you. It could be something that you did in the ring. What's something that just personally makes you smile to reflect back on? I mean, that was cool that I got to do that.
You know what? winning the world title for the first time against The Rock. I mean, The Rock was he was he was the biggest star in the business, huge. Him and Stone Cold, top two in the business at that particular time, above and beyond everybody else. And The Rock beating him for the world title my rookie year. It was only 10 months into when I was into the business, and being able to beat a guy of that stature, and he was so easy to work with. He was very giving. Didn't he wasn't political. He was he was about making the match as good as it could possibly be, and being able to beat him for my first world title was nothing short of amazing. That was my favorite title win, and it's because it was The Rock, and he we all know that how talented he is. He's a great athlete, and obviously he's great at cutting promos and has a great look. But the only reason why I don't put Rock up there as one of the greatest of all time, he's the greatest. He's one of the greatest superstars of all time. I can't say greatest wrestler of all time because he wasn't a technician like Benoit, Eddie Guerrero, even Undertaker is, or Shawn Michaels. I put Rock up there, like him and Ric Flair and Stone Cold Steve Austin and Hulk Hogan are the greatest superstars of all time. They're legends in their own right. But I really enjoyed beating The Rock. That was my favorite moment in professional wrestling.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for celebrating our 5th birthday with us right here on Count It Out. We couldn't think of a bigger guest right here. So thank you, sir. We really appreciate your time.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate it.
Thanks.
Have a good one, guys.
Thanks, Kurt.
as well.
Congratulations, too.
Thank
you,
you.
sir.